You saw in our thumbnail that Ernesto de la Cruz is back, and this time he doesn't want applause, he wants revenge. But there's something even crazier about the new Coco movie. The main character Miguel and the villain Ernesto are going to have to team up in the land of the dead. Crazy, right? And that's not even the only new thing. Miguel has grown up and is now a teenager, and on top of that, a mysterious girl appeared in the first images created by fans who specialize in accurately predicting what happens in Pixar movies. And there's a chance that Mama Coco could join Miguel, which could turn into the most emotional moment of this entire sequel. So grab your guitar and remember our adventures as detectives, because today we're going to put together every clue that has already been revealed about Pixar's Coco sequel. And stay until the very last clue, because that's exactly the one that could completely change Miguel's next trip to the land of the dead. You know what's starting. It's another awesome Cinewave! Ernesto. Let's go back to the scene where Ernesto is defeated. Get the investigation arrow ready and zoom in like a detective. He gets thrown through the air, flies several yards, and hits the bell before being crushed. Wait, in soccer we call this checking VAR. He died there, right? He didn't? Of course not. He had already kicked the bucket before that. If you thought that giant bell had taken care of the Ernesto de la Cruz problem once and for all, we have our first major reveal. It didn't. Ernesto is officially back in Coco 2. Actor Benjamin Bratt, who is the character's original voice, is returning to voice the villain, and most importantly, he won't just be showing up for a cameo or some silly Easter egg, nothing like that. Ernesto wants revenge on Miguel. At the D23 event where we found this out, there was even an image of the two of them meeting again. Take a look. And let's be real, he has plenty of reasons to be angry. In the first movie, Miguel discovered that Ernesto stole Hector's songs, his actual great-great-grandfather, and the main character revealed the truth in front of everyone in the land of the dead. In just a few minutes, the biggest icon in Mexican music went from pop star to exposed fraud, like we already showed you today. So just look at how big this problem is. Miguel didn't just defeat Ernesto, he destroyed the very thing Ernesto valued most, his fame, even after death. And apparently he hasn't forgotten, and he definitely isn't going to forgive him. But now comes the strange part. Remember how Ernesto's story ended? After being exposed, he ended up getting crushed by a bell, almost perfectly repeating the accident that caused his death in the world of the living. You don't remember that part, do you? Call VAR and get the detective zoom ready. Did you notice the pattern here? He died because of a bell, and then he was defeated by being crushed by another bell. It almost feels like divine punishment. Could it have been someone's plan from a higher plane? We know that wasn't the end of him. The questions now are, how did Ernesto manage to come back? Where has he been all this time? And what exactly does he plan to do to get revenge on Miguel and the Rivera family? For now, those answers are still hidden, but we already have a much bigger clue about the consequences of that revenge. Ernesto himself is the one who will cause Miguel's new trip to the land of the dead. But hold on to your theories, because the next piece of information Disney revealed about the two of them makes everything even stranger. This time, Miguel is going to have to side with Ernesto de la Cruz. Alliance. And this is where the new movie starts getting even more interesting, because Miguel is no longer that 12-year-old kid who secretly made his way into the land of the dead. He grew up. The first artwork released by Disney shows Miguel as a teenager with a different look, his guitar in his hands, and of course Dante still by his side. In other words, years have passed since the first adventure, but apparently one thing hasn't changed at all. Miguel still manages to get himself into trouble with dead people. Somebody call a priest, please. And this time, the problem has a first name, a last name, and a smile everybody recognizes: Ernesto de la Cruz. The former idol's revenge is exactly what ends up taking Miguel back to the land of the dead. But pay attention to this clue, because it completely changes what we might expect from the sequel. If you follow our arrow and zoom in, you'll see that Miguel is still using Ernesto's white guitar, and that could be a connection between the two of them, right? Would you like to run into Miguel Rivera or Ernesto out there? Comment the hashtag Pixar so we can get to know you. Miguel isn't simply going back to face Ernesto, he's going to have to team up with the villain. Yes, the same man who stole his relative's songs. And even so, at some point, the two of them are going to be on the same side. Actor Benjamin Bratt even joked about this new dynamic, saying that Miguel becomes a kind of threat and ends up having to team up with the handsome superstar. Now, try to put this puzzle together. If Ernesto wants revenge, and the main character is still using his guitar, why would Miguel agree to help him? What could possibly be dangerous enough to make little Miguel agree to this alliance? Maybe there's an even bigger threat waiting in the land of the dead. Our theory is that Miguel made a major change in the first movie, and that created a problem. In other words, Miguel actually made someone pay for his crimes, even after death, and every spirit saw it happen. By doing that, he reunited his great-great-grandparents and saved Hector's soul. In other words, Miguel proved that even after death, justice can still be served. Someone on the other side may not have liked that at all. Or maybe this is only a temporary partnership and Ernesto has been planning something terrible from the very beginning. For now, that goes on our theory board, okay? Pixar still hasn't given us that answer. But one thing is already clear. Putting Miguel and Ernesto together is a perfect way to continue this story, so the challenge could be much worse. Knowing that Ernesto is dangerous and still having to trust him. But while everyone is looking at Ernesto and trying to figure out how this alliance is going to work, there's someone else getting everyone's attention. A girl with her face painted who is already on fans' minds. Who is this girl? Girlfriend? And now we've reached the clue that has a lot of people arguing online. Take a look at this image that has blown up on the internet over the last few days. Who is this girl with the painted face? She appears in material shared by fans of the movie, and that was enough for a theory to pop up almost immediately. Could we be looking at Miguel's future girlfriend? Easy, detectives. Here, we need to separate a clue from an actual answer. So far, Disney has not confirmed any new character, has not revealed this girl's name, and definitely has not said that she is Miguel's girlfriend. So for now, the romance is just a theory. But that's exactly what makes this girl so interesting. After all, Miguelito is a teenager now. And let's be real, guys with freshly cut hair and a guitar on their back usually don't take too long to get a girlfriend. Don't believe me? Go buy yourself a guitar. Anyway, think about it with me. Miguel is a teenager now. Introducing an unknown character right at this new stage of his life is hardly going to go unnoticed by fans. Could she be a friend? Someone important to the Rivera family? A character connected to Ernesto? Of course she could, but we still don't know. And that's where our investigation begins. This girl's painted face immediately draws attention to her connection with the Day of the Dead universe. But careful, her appearance alone doesn't tell us who she is or where she came from. You can't just look at one image and say, that's it, she's Miguel's girlfriend. That would be way too easy. Not to mention that she could already be dead. I'm pretty sure falling in love with someone who's already gone is illegal. Anyway, let's keep going. The most fun thing right now is to keep this girl as a puzzle piece without a defined place yet. But what if she isn't dead? See how that changes everything? Miguel entered the land of the dead while he was alive, so why couldn't another girl do the same? Maybe she's there to help her family and ends up meeting Miguel. In that case, the two could fall in love there and then meet again in the world of the living. I believe this theory. Do you? While this girl represents someone new entering Miguel's story, there's another character who could bring the exact opposite. Someone we already know very well. But before we talk about that, we have a mission for you. And if you're not subscribed yet, you know what to do. Click and hit the bell so you don't miss any videos. And before our final clue, remember something extremely important from the first movie. Miguel already crossed the land of the dead, met his ancestors, and made it back home. That was the adventure, right? But since that story, a very important person in the family has also passed away. And if Miguel really does return to the land of the dead in Coco 2, then there's one reunion that has now become very possible. And this could be the most emotional clue of all, Abuelita. And now we've reached the clue that could turn this movie from a fun adventure into a story capable of completely breaking your heart. Because before we talk about her, think about what has changed since the last time Miguel entered the land of the dead. Let's go back to the ending of the first movie. In the first adventure, Mama Coco, the Abuelita, was still alive. She was the one Miguel sang the most famous song from this movie to, Remember Me. It was her memory that helped prove who Hector really was. And it was through her that the Rivera family's story finally managed to put together all those pieces that had been separated for so long. But at the end of the first movie, we find out that Mama Coco also died. Of course, she was already pretty old, right? And that creates a possibility that simply didn't exist in the original adventure. Miguel is going back to the land of the dead, so Mama Coco is there too. And get the investigation arrow and detective zoom ready because yes, we have images. This original Pixar artwork shows the reunion. Now think about how huge that would be. Miguel met Hector after he died. He met several of his ancestors in that other world. But with his abuelita, it would be completely different, because she isn't just a relative Miguel knows from family stories. He actually spent time with her, and it was precisely that moment between the two of them that gave us one of the most emotional scenes in Pixar history, with abuelita's memory coming back to life. So imagine Miguel, now older, returning to that bridge and discovering that the grandma he knew is waiting for him. But this is where we need to put our detective badges back on. After all this chaos with Ernesto, the revenge, the two of them teaming up, a possible girlfriend. Anyway, none of that creates one completely clear story. Miguel is reuniting with someone he loves in the leaked image, but now I want to know your theory. Could Abuelita be the one who brings the entire story together again? How do you think this should happen? Will she immediately recognize that boy, considering she suffered from memory loss when she was alive? Will she have something important to tell him? Or could her presence somehow be connected to the problem Miguel is going to face? For now, those answers are still hidden. The good news is that we already know when this new story is coming to theaters. Coco 2 premieres in November 2029, 12 years after the first movie. Until then, Pixar still has plenty of time to reveal more details or hide even more clues out there. And you can be sure of one thing, we'll be looking for every single one of them with you. That's all for now.
It's almost over, but until then, you can stay with us. There are 2 super fun videos waiting for you. Thanks, and see you next time.